Imagine this. You finish dinner, you put your plate away, take one last sip of water, and then you don't eat another bite. An hour passes, then 2, then 6. By the time you wake up the next morning, your body has already started changing in ways you can't see. Most people think the moment they stop eating, their body immediately switches to burning fat. But that's not what happens. In reality, your body follows a carefully designed survival system that's been refined over millions of years. It doesn't panic. It doesn't suddenly run out of energy. Instead, it calmly changes where that energy comes from, step by step. First, it uses the food you've just eaten. Then it turns to stored sugar, and only later does it begin relying more heavily on stored body fat. Every hour, different hormones rise and fall. Different organs take on new roles. And without you even noticing, your body begins preparing for a world where food isn't immediately available. So, what really happens inside your body when you stop eating? Let's start the clock. Hour 0. Your last meal. Right now, your body has one job: digest the meal you just ate. As food enters your stomach, it begins breaking down into smaller pieces. A little later, it moves into your small intestine, where nutrients are absorbed into your bloodstream. Carbohydrates become glucose. Proteins become amino acids. Fats are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. These nutrients are then delivered to different parts of your body to be used or stored. At this stage, your body isn't burning much of its stored fat. It doesn't need to. You just gave it fresh fuel. Think of it like charging your phone. If your battery is plugged into the wall, it doesn't need to use the battery's stored power. Your body works in a similar way. As long as energy from your recent meal is available, that's what it prefers to use. Around 1 to 4 hours. As nutrients enter your bloodstream, your blood sugar rises. In response, your pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin acts like a traffic controller. It tells your body's cells, there's plenty of energy available. Come and get it. Muscle cells absorb glucose. Your brain continues using glucose as its primary fuel. Any extra glucose that isn't immediately needed gets stored for later. Some is packed away inside your muscles. The rest is stored in your liver. These stored supplies are called glycogen. Think of glycogen as your body's emergency pantry. You won't need it yet, but you'll be glad it's there later. At this point, your body is still comfortably running on the meal you ate. Nothing dramatic has happened. And despite what many people believe, that you're still not really burning fat. Around 4 to 8 hours. Several hours have now passed. The food in your stomach has mostly moved on. Your blood sugar begins returning to normal. As this happens, insulin levels slowly start to fall. This is one of the first major shifts during a fast. Not because insulin is bad, it's an essential hormone, but because lower insulin changes what your body is willing to use for energy. Instead of constantly relying on incoming food, your body starts opening the door to its stored energy reserves. Before it reaches for body fat, it has another fuel source waiting. Remember that emergency pantry? Now it's time to open it. In the next stage, your liver begins breaking down glycogen to keep your blood sugar stable, even though you haven't eaten in hours. And this is where fasting starts to get really interesting. 8 to 12 hours. Your backup fuel. By now, it's been around 8 hours since your last meal. Maybe you've slept through most of it, or maybe you've been awake, going about your normal day. Either way, your body is quietly making its next move. Remember the glycogen your body stored earlier? This is when it starts cashing in those savings. Your liver begins breaking glycogen back down into glucose and releases it into your bloodstream. Why? Because some parts of your body, especially your brain and red blood cells, still need a steady supply of glucose to function properly. Your body isn't trying to make life difficult for you. It's trying to keep everything running as smoothly as possible. So instead of letting your blood sugar crash, it simply starts using the energy it stored earlier. It's like having money in a savings account. You don't spend your emergency fund while you're still receiving a paycheck. But once the paycheck stops coming in, that's exactly what the savings are for. That's what glycogen is, your body's emergency savings account. So, are you burning fat yet? The answer is yes, but probably not as much as you think. One of the biggest myths about fasting is that your body suddenly flips a switch and starts melting away body fat. In reality, it's more like turning a dimmer switch. As insulin continues to fall, your body gradually becomes better at accessing stored fat. But it's not abandoning glycogen overnight. For a while, it's using both. The exact balance depends on several factors, including what you ate before the fast, how active you've been, your overall health, and even your metabolism. There's no universal hour where everyone's body suddenly changes gears. It's a gradual transition, and that's perfectly normal. 12 to 16 hours, the shift begins. Now we're entering the stage that made intermittent fasting so popular. By this point, liver glycogen stores have continued to decline. That doesn't necessarily mean they're completely empty, but they're becoming less available than they were just a few hours ago. So your body starts relying more heavily on another fuel source. Stored body fat. Fat cells begin releasing molecules called fatty acids into your bloodstream. Many tissues, including your muscles, can use these fatty acids directly for energy. This helps preserve the remaining glucose for the organs that depend on it most. It's a clever system. Instead of wasting valuable glucose where it isn't absolutely necessary, your body saves it. Meanwhile, it encourages many other tissues to use fat instead. It's efficient. It's flexible. And it's exactly how the human body evolved to survive periods without food. But here's something important. Just because your body is using more fat for fuel doesn't automatically mean you're losing body fat overall. Those two things sound identical, but they're not. Imagine you spend $5,000 from your savings today, and then tomorrow you deposit $10,000 back into the same account. Technically, you used your savings, but your savings still increased overall. Your body works in a similar way. You can burn fat during a fast and still gain body fat over time if you regularly eat more energy than your body needs afterward. That's why fasting isn't magic. It's simply one strategy that can make it easier for some people to maintain a calorie deficit. The real driver of long-term fat loss is consistently using more energy than you consume over time. Fasting can help create that situation, but it doesn't replace it. By now, something else has also started happening quietly inside your liver. As more fat is broken down, your liver begins producing an alternative fuel. A fuel that becomes increasingly important the longer you go without eating. They're called ketones. 16 to 24 hours. Your body adapts. It's now been somewhere between 16 and 24 hours since your last meal. By this point, your body has become much better at working with what it has. Insulin remains lower than it was after your last meal. Your liver has continued using its glycogen stores to help keep your blood sugar stable. And because those stores are becoming more limited, your body is relying more on fat as a fuel source. But something even more interesting is happening inside your liver. As fatty acids arrive from your fat stores, your liver begins converting some of them into tiny molecules called ketones. Think of ketones as a backup fuel. Your brain normally runs mostly on glucose. But during a longer fast, ketones become another energy source your brain can use. It's an incredible adaptation. Instead of allowing your brain to run out of fuel, your body simply changes the type of fuel it provides. It's one of the reasons humans were able to survive long periods without regular access to food. Your body wasn't designed to shut down the moment you missed a meal. It was designed to adapt. Does this mean you're in ketosis? Not necessarily. This is another area where there's a lot of confusion online. Ketone production doesn't suddenly begin at exactly 16 hours. For some people, measurable ketones may appear sooner. For others, it may take longer. It depends on things like your recent diet, how much glycogen you had stored, your activity level, and individual differences. So rather than thinking of ketosis as an on-off switch, it's better to think of it as a gradual increase. As fasting continues, ketone production generally rises. What about your metabolism? One of the biggest fears people have is that fasting immediately slows your metabolism. The truth is a little more complicated. During the first day of fasting, your body is still working hard to keep everything functioning normally. Your heart is still beating. Your lungs are still breathing. Your brain is still thinking. Your body doesn't simply give up because breakfast was skipped. In fact, during shorter fasts, your resting metabolic rate often stays fairly stable. Over much longer periods of severe calorie restriction or prolonged fasting, however, the body can begin conserving energy as an adaptation. That's one reason why extended fasts should be approached carefully and, in some cases, under medical supervision. The important takeaway is this: skipping a meal doesn't automatically send your body into starvation mode. Beyond 24 hours, once you've gone beyond an entire day without eating, your body continues adapting. Fat breakdown continues. Ketone production generally increases. Your body becomes even more efficient at using the fuels that are available. But this is also where the conversation becomes more nuanced. Longer fasts aren't automatically better. The longer a fast continues, the more important things like hydration, electrolytes, individual health conditions, medications, and overall nutrition become. Fasting for extended periods isn't appropriate for everyone. Children, people who are pregnant or breastfeeding, individuals with certain medical conditions, and anyone taking medications that affect blood sugar should seek medical advice before attempting prolonged fasts. For most people interested in weight loss, the goal isn't to see how long they can avoid food. The goal is to find an eating pattern they can maintain safely and consistently over time, and that's a very different thing. So, after everything we've learned, What's the biggest misconception about fasting? It's not that fasting doesn't work. It's that people often misunderstand why it works. Does fasting actually help you lose weight? After following your body hour by hour, one thing should be clear. Your body is incredibly adaptable. It doesn't panic the moment you stop eating. Instead, it gradually changes where it gets its energy, first from the food you've eaten, then from stored glycogen, and eventually by relying more on stored fat. But now comes the question millions of people ask. If fasting makes your body burn more fat, why doesn't everyone who fasts lose weight? The answer comes down to one simple principle. Throughout this video, we've talked about what fuel your body is using. But that's different from how much energy your body uses overall. Imagine your body is like a car. Whether it burns petrol from one tank or another doesn't change how much fuel the journey requires. The journey still uses the same amount of energy. Your body works in much the same way. Fasting changes where your energy comes from. It doesn't magically make energy disappear. If, over days and weeks, you consistently consume more calories than your body needs, you'll still store the excess as body fat, even if you fasted earlier in the day. On the other hand, if you consistently consume fewer calories than your body uses, your body has to make up the difference by drawing on stored energy, including body fat. That's why scientists generally agree that a calorie deficit is the main driver of fat loss. Fasting can simply make that calorie deficit easier for some people to maintain. For example, some people find it easier to skip breakfast than to count every calorie they eat. Others feel less hungry eating within an 8-hour window. Some prefer 3 meals a day and never fast at all. If each of those people ends up eating roughly the same number of calories, their fat loss can be very similar. That's because the body responds primarily to the overall energy balance, not the clock. So fasting isn't a secret shortcut. It's a tool. And like any tool, it works well for some people and poorly for others. The next time someone tells you that your body instantly starts burning fat the moment you skip a meal, or that missing breakfast automatically puts you into starvation mode, you'll know the truth is much more interesting. Your body doesn't switch from one fuel to another with the flip of a switch. It adapts, hour by hour, meal by meal, day by day. It's constantly making tiny adjustments to keep you alive, protect your organs, and provide your brain and muscles with the energy they need. And perhaps the most fascinating part of all, most of this happens without you ever noticing. The human body has been preparing for periods without food for millions of years. Every missed meal sets that ancient survival system into motion, not because your body expects you to diet, but because throughout most of human history, food wasn't always guaranteed. So the next time you finish a meal and wonder what's happening inside your body, you'll know that an incredible biological story has already begun. If you enjoyed learning how your body works, make sure to subscribe because every week we break down the science behind health, nutrition, psychology, and everyday life, one simple explanation at a time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.